Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Michelle Saeed, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and really the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're thrilled to have Melissa Whitaker, the founder and CEO of Melissa Whitaker International, joining us. Melissa brings over 30 years of experience in sales and leadership, having worked with many giants in the space, and really now drives and leads MWI, that's how I've abbreviated it, to drive peak performance through sales training, leadership coaching, and wellness programs. We'll explore her founding story, really how MWI is reshaping sales and leadership, and her vision for scaling her impact. So let's dive in. Melissa, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to join you today.
Love it. Absolutely. Now, let's kick things off for the listeners. Take us back to the beginning. What specific problem was it within the sales or leadership landscape that inspired you to start Melissa Whitaker International to begin with?
Sure. About 15 years ago, I started my organization, and it was for a couple of reasons. One, because yes, I saw that there was a gap in the market of sales training, sales leadership training and coaching. I felt like there was a lot where people were coming in and still felt like they were still a number. You know what I mean? So they'd receive sales training, but they feel like they were just going through the motions or learning tools and techniques, and then they may or may not make it, so to say, for even after the training. Whereas when we came in and when I started Melissa Whitaker International, it was more centered around a holistic model. When we let people know how we're different, is that we see people, we hear people, and we seek to understand people, which is very different. We let people know when we start a class or something like a training and possibly ongoing coaching, we let them know that we care about them, we care about their family, and of course, we care about the organization they work for who hired us. And that's a very different feeling, by the way. The other reason, too, that we also started, I started MWI is because I also saw that a lot of people were brought into sales organizations and they weren't given any training. And
Mm.
so we're like, wow, when I first started in sales, to be honest, I wasn't given any training whatsoever. I
Yeah.
was told, here's some cards with my scratched off manager's name on it, said, use this temporarily. Here's some brochures and good luck, make it happen, a thing. And then, so the combination of those two things from a desire standpoint and just loving really coaching and building into others. It also, when I started MWI, was for an additional reason from my side. I had a 2-year-old toddler. I had a baby on the way. I was working 12 to 16 hours, 5 days a week away from the home. And I said to my husband, something's going to have to give. What do we do here? I can't keep up that schedule with a toddler and a new baby. But I was the breadwinner back then of the family. And so he said, why don't you start your own company? It's funny because as exciting as I'm sure you could imagine that sounded, I was terrified at the same time because you and I both know there's highs in business ownership. And frankly, there's some scary, frightening lows in the business ownership. So I was like, am I prepared to do that knowing that I needed to provide for our family? But I started 15 years ago, really on a lot of prayer and faith. And here we are 15 years later, and thankful to be here and thankful that we get the opportunity to build into all of our clients.
Wow. Phenomenal. Congratulations on your journey thus far. I'm so inspired just as like a woman and especially within the sales and leadership space. You're doing some really great work out there. This is
Thank you.
purpose driven at the end of the day. And absolutely, so many young people and just the people who start their first role within like sales and like joining companies where they are in that department, they absolutely don't get that training. They don't have the tools, the strategies on like how they can actually like prosper and ultimately be set up for success. And it starts from like the leaders at the top. I'm sure you can imagine you've worked with a few and they have those blind spots. So no, I love this. Let's get into the nuts and bolts really for the listeners, even potential clients tuning in. Walk us through some of your core offerings right now. What are some of those services that you offer? If someone comes in, they want to work with you, what does the onboarding look like? What is the delivery? And what's like your ideal customer profile if you can share with the listeners?
Oh, sure, sure. There are different things that we do offer on sales and sales leadership. Our flagship programs that we offer are 12-month programs where teams can join us for sales or sales leaders, and they come in for an initial like sales training or leadership training, depending on what category they're in. And we do a 3-day in-person training for sales. Or if some people say, hey, we have a smaller group, can we join another group? We also have that Zoom based as well for an offering. But nonetheless, they start with training and then they do receive ongoing coaching for 11 months. And we do alternate that between group coaching and then private one-on-one coaching, and then group coaching, and then private one-on-one. We have found that to be the most successful. That way, when we do group coaching, everyone does receive a coaching form ahead of time so we can have it documented and tracked, and we can see the return on investment, and we can see behavioral change along with the numbers, which we all look at. But in addition to that, they fill that out. They each sit in a hot seat with me so that they can go over their form, but there's also accountability to themselves, accountability to their team members. And that's really important. And then when we do private one-on-ones, it's just a really cherished time, really, to be honest with you, because people said, I need some guidance and some coaching that I'm not in front of the whole group, and maybe it's something that's confidential that wouldn't be appropriate in a group setting. So that is what that really serves as that area, and it's been tremendously successful. Now, when it comes to sales leaders, it's a similar structure, but slightly different on the coaching. They do have a 3-day in-person leadership training initially. And then we go into private 1 hour sessions through Zoom and coaching every month for the remainder of that program. Those are our two main core flagship programs in those areas. However, we do have, by the way, some organizations or individuals come to us and say, can we get started with something a little bit smaller and test the water before we do the big program? And we say,
Right.
absolutely. So we have a 4-hour sales assessment workshop that people can take advantage of individually or as a group. We
Mhm.
also have a management or management leadership all day personalized assessment workshop as well. And so we have some people who will do that first, individually or as a group. And then when they see that, they're like, okay, I need more. I need more of the structure and the guidance and the accountability and the reinforcing. Then we move to that as well. So there are two different ways to engage with us on that, both of them wildly successful. So not to be worried either way. And
Yeah.
then for the organizations we work with, the nice thing is, early on with MWI, as I said, we've been around for 15 years. We initially did focus on more of my background industry, which was technology for sales and leadership. However, we saw the writing on the wall in 2016 and we thought, okay, we do need to diversify a little bit. And so since 2016, we have dramatically expanded to
Mhm.
many other industries. And so now really what we offer, I maybe you want to call it industry agnostic, so to say, right? It goes to all industries and it doesn't matter where the people are at. We meet them where they're at. However, from a size for an organization perspective for ideal client, we really focus on organizations who have 6 to 20 salespeople. I say that fast, our ideal clients. We do have clients that are larger than that, of course, and we have clients that are smaller than that, of course. But our sweet spot ideal is if they have 6 to 20 sales professionals in that range. And when it comes to sales leaders, really, it's across the gamut. We help people individually and also as a group. So it's really focused on the number of that size. Now, when it comes to an organizational size, we let people know that if organizations have anywhere from 100 to 300, 350 number of employees, then they would also be ideal for how we can help them in the most impactful way.
Love that. From what it sounds like, you have it really all figured out. 15 years of success is already telling in of itself, offering something for everyone, whether it's like the sales leaders, some of those individuals coming in through the process. Love how packaged, from what it sounds like, some of these offerings are. And from a scalability perspective as well, I'm sure it allows you as well to ensure that you're able to serve and help everyone, right? And they're not just having to like stick to one thing, which is like the one-on-one, which is typical within the sales and leadership landscapes. Yeah, no, that's incredible. Kind of building on your growth, How are you currently acquiring some of your clients today? What are some of those channels, whether it's like LinkedIn, organic marketing, referrals? What's been working well? Have you tried anything on the paid advertising side? Tell us a little bit about some of the client acquisition that you've been doing.
Wonderful. So, yeah, I would say heavily on how we really have expanded through the years. Initially, it was based on reputation, word of mouth, referrals, as a lot of business owners do when they first start, right? But we quickly found that, like, how else are we going to really magnify and attract our ideal clients? And that really took us to where we even are today. We do a lot on LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn is a very heavy, great platform for us, let's say, because our clients are mainly B2B in a company or corporate environment. And LinkedIn is still a driving force for us. I also do a lot of speaking. So, since I am a keynote speaker and I speak all across the world, as I
Mm,
speak to our ideal clients and crowds or audiences of our ideal clients, then that also brings awareness to decision makers who say, we need you to work with our team. So LinkedIn and speaking engagements are probably the top two. Now, your question on have we done paid ads and things of that nature? We've run some paid ads through Facebook and also LinkedIn in the past.
mm,
And it's so I would say in our results, only because I think our ideal clients are more corporate or company based.
mm,
I have found that as I've tracked things through the years, when
mm,
people are working with consumers or mainly just small business entrepreneurs, I feel like the paid ads do amazing. But I
mm.
feel like when it is corporate or company based, it could go either way. And for
Yeah.
us, it was to be honest. But LinkedIn and speaking engagements have really brought it home for us.
Absolutely. No, I love the fact that you've leveraged your LinkedIn profile, doing some of that thought leadership, really providing value to your audience. We took a look as well before we decided to reach out, and we were like, wow, there's so much upfront value here that you're providing, anyways, to some of the potential clients and your audience in general that you're trying to reach. Now, I totally agree with you. Sometimes with paid ads, it is like a hit or miss. It really depends on who you're going after and where they're actually looking. But at the same time, we've had a lot of guests on here that we've interviewed, and referrals are powerful in person networking. Same with speaking engagement, but it does take a lot of time and it's not always like predictable, right? What are some of those ways that you're exploring to create more of a scalable, predictable like acquisition in terms of that flow of leads each month? What are you working on that front to ensure that you can actually diversify and you're not in all the rooms per se?
Great question. Now, we do also have a sales team, and so we have individuals that do call out to all of our past clients, current clients, warm leads, even throughout the time for past speaking engagements over the course of 15 years, plus current ones. Plus, we also do have leads that we bring in. So we do have a way to bring in database searches for
Mm,
people who would be ideal for us. And we bring that in on a regular basis into our database and making sure we're reaching out to them so that they just know we're here. I'm sure you find, and when you talk to a lot of small business owners or businesses in general, one of the biggest challenges that we all have is that most people just don't know about us.
mm,
Right. So we have to be insight in mind. And there's so much opportunity out there because there's so many people that have bottlenecks who are looking for our services. But if we
mm,
are not out there, if we're not sharing what we can actually do with people on
mm,
different platforms and even speaking platforms, social media platforms, outbound reach platforms, if we are not doing that, it's selfish. We're actually holding back the opportunity to be the key that unlocks their success from the
mm,
bottlenecks that they're experiencing. So I try to remind people who get a little squeamish, to be honest with you, who are outside of this area and they say,
mm.
gosh, I don't want to come across too salesy. I don't want to pressure anyone. And I say, hold on.
Yeah,
That's a mindset issue. If you
yeah,
can reframe your mindset, you need to know that people out there need your
mm,
services. And
yeah,
the challenge here is being out there enough so that you can find each other. And if you're not out there sharing, and if you're not out there being an influencer and being a thought leader and sharing your wisdom, you're
mm,
actually robbing others of the opportunity for growth. And then people go light bulbs go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And so,
yeah,
yeah, sales is not a dirty word. So many
mm,
people cringe when they hear sales or salespeople or
yeah, yeah.
salesperson. And to me, it's a shame, right? If people are really truly doing what sales was supposed to be, it's
Mm.
not supposed to be sleazy. It's not
Yeah.
supposed to feel awkward and uncomfortable. It's supposed to be sharing and caring and coming together, and all it is a conversation. And
Yeah.
if you're the right solution for the problem someone's having, it shouldn't feel awkward or uncomfortable, and the other person shouldn't feel uncomfortable either. They should be thanking you that they came across your services because
Mm.
you have the answers that they've been looking for. And so I think that's so vital in that approach. But because of that, we do, in our organization, we teach and we also do outbound sales prospecting. So to make
Mm.
sure it's consistent, not only do we have outbound prospecting going on, but we also work with automation and flows. So we want to make sure we have a drip marketing campaign going on a regular basis. So we have that combination of people are seeing us on social media. They're
Yeah.
seeing us at speaking engagements. They're actually seeing us by referrals and word of mouth, of course, but they're also hearing from us. They're
Mm.
also meeting our team members. They're
Mm.
also seeing insight in mind, drip marketing
Mm.
information. And so
Mm.
I keep reminding even our sales folks, I'll say, listen, no is only no today because it really comes down to timing.
Mm.
People need our services. They really need our services. But
Absolutely.
it's just a matter of having enough frequency on how much we're in front of them for insight in mind. So when the timing matches, that's how it happens consistently and effectively and scales effectively, is that then more people think of us when that timing hits and oh, we've got to call MWI or we've got to contact Melissa and her team. And I
Yeah.
find that's what brings the consistency and the growth.
Love that. No, you just gave us some solid wisdom right there. I'm like geeking out as you're like going on and on about like outbound prospecting and really just, yeah, creating a lot of that awareness, right? Servant Leadership by Simon Sinek, one of my favorite books. And that those are some of those underlying principles like are so important where, they need you more than you need them at the end of the day. And that should exactly be the mentality and the mindset when you go into a sales call or when you go into a conversation with someone who desperately needs that help. And sometimes what it is like you have to pull them out of that mindset, do a little bit of that shape shifting, and allow them to realize that, hey, there's a bigger gap here. And if we don't solve for this now, this can probably escalate. And there are a lot of people who just don't even realize that they have that to begin with. So it's all about serving at the end of the day. And that's what sales is, right? It is absolutely not a dirty word. And I love the way that you really put it. No, I appreciate you sharing all that.
Sure.
Now, what are some of those ways that you yourself within your organization are creating like more of that top of funnel awareness, like per se, in terms of like really making, and that comes up as a common theme is like, how can we get our audience to be a little bit more aware about them even having some of those problems? Like, what have been some of those strategies? How are you navigating that?
Oh, great question. I love that. I don't normally get that question. I do a lot of podcasts. I don't get that question a lot. I love it. I would say too is I'm someone who's very hands-on.
Mm.
Okay, so from a leader perspective, I am making sure I'm attending also a lot of functions. I'm connecting with a lot of people. I believe in strategic networking. I
Mm.
have a whole talk that I give on strategic networking, the power of who we
Mm.
know and who the people we know, how who they know. And I
Yeah.
think that one of the biggest gaps that we have today is people are not even getting out enough as leaders. Because as leaders, if we start having conversations and asking probing questions, and we
Mm.
know the right probing questions. We know the pains and the challenges of our top clients. And if we start asking questions to other people like, how do you handle this? Is that impacting you? How are you moving forward with that? Is there a bottleneck around this area? And the really key thing, gap that I find too often from leaders and even from sales professionals, by the way, people are not asking enough questions and they're not asking the right questions. And it's not so much about throwing up about your services. No one wants to hear that or see that, by the way. But if you're asking questions and then
Mm.
you're letting them talk about themselves and then you let them talk about their company and you're
Yeah.
listening, really listening, that's where the magic happens. I'm
Mm.
sure you've heard that with some of the other folks, but that's where the magic happens. And as leaders, our job is to be out there and be the face of the company. Our
Mm.
job is to ask and lead the questions that should be asked so that even not only do we then find out what people's needs are, or they
Mm.
don't realize, like you said, that it's a problem, but we'll say, oh, some of our clients experience this and
Yeah.
it causes this, kind of like a verbal or even a visual case study, which we do all the time. And
Mm.
that really reminds people like, here's some clients in here what they were experiencing. Here's what it was costing them. Here's what we did to make a change, and here was their
Yeah.
ROI. So when
Yeah.
we can give case studies verbally or visually, it lets people know sometimes even if they think they're healthy as an organization, they may say, I never thought about that, but we have the
Yeah.
same problem. And
Yeah.
so I think it's our job as a leader to really put those out there appropriately, guide the process of the verbiage, be the example of what questions we're asking and how we're asking it, and then making sure also training and coaching our people to do the same so that we're teaching our people how to fish and not fishing for them. So I think it starts at the top. I'm sorry, it starts at the top. We
Mm.
have to be doing it. We have to represent it. We have to teach it. And then we
Mm.
have to ask the right questions.
Yeah, 100%. And it's all about building a lot of that trust through the education, like you said, like
Mhm.
providing a lot of those case studies, those visuals, some of those half-baked ideas so that your audience can see that, hey, there is validity here. There is something that makes sense and there might be that alignment. Now, in terms of like really going on a massive scale, right? What are some of those ways? Because you mentioned outbound prospecting as some of those strategies you teach some of your clients externally, but you guys are implementing it within your organization. What are some of
Absolutely.
those ways that you're systematizing, you're automating your outbound prospecting so that you can start to broaden your reach and optimize for that? What have you been exploring in that sense?
So it's interesting because so when we started MWI in 2010, we didn't have automation going. Okay. Because back then it wasn't as big of a thing for people who did B2B. It was a little more
Yeah.
common for B2C, like business to consumers, and
Right.
not so much for B2B. Okay. So in 2014, about 4 years in, I said, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And we actually came together as a group at that time for myself and the employees that I had and said, let's strategize. We've got to automate things. We have to be able to do more with less. We have
Yeah.
to be able to streamline our approach. We have to make sure that it's more consistent. And so we
Mhm.
initially started back in 2014 and we actually took on a CRM that actually did all those things. We went from everything being disjointed. We had a CRM. And then we had like constant contact for marketing blast. And then we had Square for credit card payments or manual payments or checks, which is even worse, right? But we said, how do we streamline this? How do we make a system and a process so we can do more, reach more,
Yeah.
be able to expand more? And so
Mhm.
it was a big undertaking back then at the time because it was so new. But we took it on, we conquered it. We didn't use everything that was available to us because it was too overwhelming, but we used enough. So we have a CRM that not only can we keep track of our customer relationships in that management tool, but we had everything built in talking, which a lot of people instill today are not, I still
Yeah.
not even doing that, which shocks me. It's like you
Great.
need to have a database where all your people that you're talking to are in there, that you can see it, you can track it, but then you need to be able to have your marketing blast that can go out, and then you should be able to go and see who opened it and who sent it forward and different things like this. And yes, a lot of people have it today in disjointed systems. But if you want yourself, your sales team for even growth perspectives, is that if I'm doing something as a leader, I want my team to be able to see, oh, we sent that marketing blast out last week. We went in and looked at this click report or who opened it. We want to make sure we know the timing so we can have right timing for who's interested. And then whenever we go into the future and we look at a contact, there's a record of everything we've sent to them, everything they've opened, everything that they've done. And then we built our whole entire marketplace in there so that all of our services, even though we mainly do training, coaching, and consulting, which is service based, it's not product based per se, but we created all of our services in there so that there's an automated link that now we can also have that goes out in the blast automatically where sales can be coming in while we're sleeping for services. I could be on vacation or some of my team could be on vacation and we still have things coming through when we're not manually doing things. We also made sure that when you go into a contact record in your CRM, not only can you see what's been sent and what's been opened, but there's a running tally in the corner for that contact saying, here's all the invoices that client has ever done with you over the course or history of time. And you can click on it to see the detailed information at any time, right? So from 2014 until now, that's what we use. Now, why do I say until now? Because we're in the process right now where we're at 90% done, but you and I both know what is the hot thing now? AI, right? And so we are currently almost finished with our migration of going from our old system to a new system that not only can do all of that, but it's like that on steroids. So I always remind people as entrepreneurs and small business owners, when even sales professionals, sales leaders, Are you combining your resources? Do
Mm,
you have a system where you and your salespeople can
mm,
track all of your contacts, track history, track birthdays, the anniversaries, all the stuff you normally do? Can you filter quickly? Can you run campaigns out to the masses in a split second instead of manually doing them one by one? Can you see how much your organization has billed out to each of those organizations when you log in there and see their contact information?
mm,
And do you have it automated with some workflow that when you are reaching out to folks, based on
mm,
the response, whether they click on something, don't click on something, whether they answer a call, don't answer a call, do you have a follow-up system
yeah.
installed so that it's reminding you on a
Mm,
timely, frequent basis when to reach out, how to reach out, and making sure that those people have our organization's insight in mind more frequently. All right.
mm,
So I would say, honestly, that's a big deal for scaling. And now, of course, with AI built in, that's helping a little bit with some of that generation of leads and
mm,
verbiage and tracking. And they
mm.
also have some additional services that people can utilize as well that you can train AI, as we all know, to do a few things as well.
Love that. Yeah, no, and when you said centralizing really a lot of that customer journey and like those workflows, immediately I was like, wow, no, that's so powerful because I think a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, they're very disorganized in that sense. They don't think too much about really how can we actually start to bring everything together in a way where we can start to even nurture some of those opportunities that come through the process because that's it's so important. It's not just about that acquisition piece where you're just bringing in new leads constantly. You have to be able to like create awareness. Like, even if they
Yeah.
do come in and they don't know who you are, how can you create that spark, that gap per se, right? And that's really what it is within like the verbiage of sales per se. And you and I both know that. Now, I'd love to learn about your approach to sales essentially. What's been some of the ways in which, if someone does come in through a speaking engagement, they want to work with you, Melissa, how are you converting them into an actual long term client? Do you have like your sales team in place doing some of that outreach? Are they having those conversations? Talk us
Mm.
through how all of that is structured right now within MWI.
Great. Yeah. So we do have it set up right now too. If there's people that I'm meeting and that I'm putting into our system, I'm trying to personalize that as much as possible. So I am reaching out to folks. We are connecting. We are having what we call discovery calls. Now,
Mm,
whether that's me with my contacts or whether that's one of our sales folks who are
mm,
actually reaching out to leads and actually reaching out to warm leads or cold leads or anything like that, they're also reaching out to schedule what we call a discovery call. So, no
mm,
matter who they're speaking with, we do
mm,
walk them through a series of questions to
mm,
really understand where they're at and where they want to be. And are there gaps and are there pains and challenges? Now, if we find that to be true, then we let them know that we'd be more than happy to give them our recommendation, which we do through a proposal and a presentation, and we schedule another appointment to make sure we have time to pull that together and go over that with them that's personalized. We also, though, by the way, we're big believers in, which I know shocks a lot of people, but I always tell our folks and the people we train, look, not everyone is your client. And
mm.
that's okay. And it's shocking for people in the sales world to hear that, I think, because
Yeah,
a lot of people in old school selling was have been told, and I was told in my early days,
yeah,
sell them something. Just sell them something. And I'm like, okay, this is what's giving sales a bad rap. That is
right.
not our job is to sell something. Our job is to discover, truly discover if there are challenges, if there are pains, if
Mm,
there are gaps. That's our job. And if that's true, and if we happen to be the solution, we will then offer a solution. There have
mm,
been times, by the way, where I've told prospects, listen, I'll let you know at the end of our discovery call if we can help you now or maybe in
mm,
the future. I'll
right.
also tell you maybe if we can't help you at all. It's
Mm,
okay because not everyone's our ideal client, and we
yeah,
only want to help people who we know we can ideally help in a big, impactful way. But
yeah,
what we may have, and that's what I tell everyone to do, how you want to build a trust and relationships faster is build your network of alliance partners. Build your
mm,
network of other organizations that maybe serve the same client base but do something different than you do. And so you're going to earn that much more brownie points, so to say, is if
mm,
you have a discovery call and you say, you know what, I can't help you with that, but I
mm,
know someone who can. And it's
mm,
okay to give that referral out to someone because what you send out eventually will come back to you as well too. And so I'm a big believer that you don't force anything. You shouldn't be sitting there just praying they
mm,
can figure out a way just to make them a client. No. Are you right? Do you have a solution or do you have someone you could refer them to? That
yeah,
always comes back full force. And I
mm,
think that sometimes people forget that. We do have that process. Now, after we do go over a proposal, and it's usually through a presentation on PowerPoint that has everything built in, we
Mm,
call it our capabilities briefing
mm,
and recommendation. Because as you and I both know, we want to lead them down as a little bit of a story. We want to
mm,
share with them what they shared with us as their current situation. We want to share a little bit of best practices of what we see around
mm,
this area. And then we
mm,
want to bring them along a journey of
mm.
what's possible that we could do with them between now and the future, and what we're
Yeah.
recommending to start now, because we believe in what I call phased approaches that
Mm,
helps with growth, that helps with residual business, even in a world maybe you don't have something that's residual.
mm,
But we find that if you ask the right questions, more of an umbrella side, and then
mm,
you start to come down in these little categories,
mm,
you can say, let's start with phase one, which is the most critical, which looks like this.
yeah.
They feel comfortable. We feel comfortable. It's in bite-sized pieces. You
Mm,
build trust, and then you're like, okay, then you'll know. It might be 3 months later. It might be 6 months later. It might be towards the end of that contract, whatever it may be. You say, you know what? It's time for us to start talking about phase two. And I've taken clients who thought they were going in and they're going to get a $20,000 deal or a $30,000 deal. And we've
right.
created a phased approach that equaled $1 million in business. And it's
Incredible.
all from that concept of asking big enough questions,
Mm,
coming down into categories, and then speaking in a way about we do a phased approach. And that has served our clients significantly and it serves us significantly. Yeah.
love that. No, I'm so excited with everything you're just saying right now. Again, I'm geeking out because this is like wisdom right here. And I'm sure the
Thank
listeners,
you.
once this episode airs, they're going to be like, wow, I'm taking notes. I'm listening into everything Melissa is saying. So, no, absolutely starting off with the questions and like the discovery is the heartbeat of every sales conversation. That's really what it is. Now, from what it sounds like, your growth has been incredible. And really, this show's about being vulnerable as well and getting real and like sharing with really like some of those founders, entrepreneurs that do tune in and they're like still figuring out their footing within their own story, what the challenges are. So if you can share with us, what are maybe some of those bottlenecks that stand out for you as you're growing MWI? Is it even attracting like some of those right types of partnerships more consistently, improving conversions? Like, what are you most focused on solving to keep all of the momentum going?
And it's a great question because, to be honest with you, I think some people are nervous to share about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and business ownership. They want to try to make it look like everything's roses and on social media, everyone's successful and then they're doing great. But the challenge is that the growth and the beauty happens from real transparency. And so
Mm,
I'm a big believer in that. I share this on a lot of my talks I even give. And I have one talk called Resilience,
mm,
Innovation, and Comebacks. Because if
mm,
anyone's ever had a business in any period of time, they know that they have to do that. And I have this, I resonate with the rising phoenix, if you know what I'm
mm,
talking about. It's like a bird that like rises out of the ashes. Listen, entrepreneurs have to
mm,
and reinvent themselves over the course of time. It's you can't escape it, by the way, and that's okay. So sometimes I think what happens is business owners, they get to a moment where the
mm,
rug is pulled out from underneath them and they have a big decision to make. Are they going
mm,
to fold up house, close down the organization, and give up? Or are they going to have resilience,
mm,
innovate new possibilities, and
mm,
have a comeback and kind of rise out of the ashes and reinvent themselves so that they can continue to serve? Because at the end of the day, like you said, we're serving. We're doing what we're doing because it's a calling. So by
mm,
closing doors, by the way, that's not serving anyone. Is it hard sometimes? Yes. But is it
mm,
worth it? Yes. And if it's a calling, you don't have an option, in my opinion. You better figure out a way to reinvent something,
mm,
find out what your clients really need right now that maybe you're not providing, and is it something you can provide, and then have that come back. And so I can tell you that even over the 15 years we've been in business, we've gone through that. In 2010 to 2015, we were growing, adding employees along the way, so many clients. And then in 2015, like halfway through the year, about summertime, June of 2015, the rug was pulled out from underneath us out of
mm,
nowhere. We always made sure we had 2 months in advance of contracts already booked and going. And we would, as we're implementing those, we're doing the next two contracts and whatever we need to do. It's interesting because at that time, one of my employees and I went on a mission trip and we
mm,
served at an orphanage with 90 children in
mm,
Baja, Mexico.
mm.
And when we came back, we thought we're ready to go. The next
Yeah.
2 months of contracts, we're ready to go. And it was strange because the entire next week, I was getting calls one by one from every contract we had, and they
Mm,
all had to either cancel or stall their contract for totally unrelated issues, but
mm,
unexpected. And I froze. At first, I thought, what is happening? Like,
mm.
My prayer when I started my business was I said, Lord, I'll do everything you've given me the ability to do. But
Mm,
if you keep opening up doors and contracts, I'll know that you're honoring this so I can honor my family. But if you close the doors, I'll know that I'll put my head down, I'll go back and get that corporate job, and I'll do whatever it takes to provide for my family because that's who I am.
mm,
And so when that happened, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, "Are you closing the doors, Lord? What's happening?" And
mm,
I really honestly felt he was saying, "Not yet."
mm,
Not yet, Melissa, because you said you want to have this level of impact in the world in my name. You are here. You want to be here.
mm,
You're not ready to handle what comes with here.
mm,
And he said, do you really, I felt like God saying, do you really want that? Do you want
mm,
to have that level of impact? And I was like, yes, of course I do. He's, are you willing to trust me? Because I'm going to have to take you through a valley. We're going
mm,
to have to refine your character, refine how well and work on how well you handle stress at a much higher level. We're going to
mm,
have to prune away some things that don't need to be there. And we're really going to have to mold you into handling the
mm,
pressure and the impact and all things that come with raising your company to that level of
mm,
scalability and
mm,
impact. And I was like, okay. And anyone who's listening, by the way, who's going to be listening to this podcast of your group, they'll know what I'm talking about. Everyone's
mm.
had a moment where they've had that rug pulled out and it
Yeah.
scares you to death. And you're like, what are we going to do here? And I called my right-hand person, Tammy, at the time,
Mm,
and she was the one who went on the mission trip with me. And
mm,
at the time I said, Tammy, we have got to pray for some new business, some big business immediately. This is what just happened. And she is so wise.
yeah.
Her and I worked so well together for a very long time. She's now moved on, but she was with me for a long time. And she said, Melissa, I'm not going to pray for that. I said,
Mm,
what? She said,
mm,
Melissa, what I'm going to pray for is clarity on why God cleared your deck. And I was
mm,
like, okay. She said,
mm,
are there things in our business that we know we need to develop or
mm,
create, but we've been
mm,
so busy working in the business, we
mm,
haven't had the time to step back and create the next level of what we know we need to have to stay relevant. And I was like,
mm,
yeah, of course, there's plenty of those projects. So we took that time,
mm,
to be honest with you, got creative. We taught ourselves how to do things we didn't know how to do. We
mm,
expanded what were our capacity and what we were able to offer. We reached out to people and asked questions and heard what they said and then
mm,
listened to what they said and we recreated things. And through that resiliency and through that innovation, we did have our comeback. Now,
mm,
I had to learn some lessons along the way. Our team had to learn some lessons along the way. And it was about a year and a half, to be honest with you. Because I was like,
mm,
how long is this going to be? Because I am an impatient person. I don't know about you, but I am an impatient person. Let's go. And it was about a year and a half. I'm not going to lie. A year and a half of really going through trials and tribulations
mm,
personally and in my business and really refining who I know God needed me to be. And now in 2017, in the beginning of 2017, we shot back up and we were growing, adding
mm,
people back. And then we all know when 2017 was great, 2018 was great, 2019 was great. And then we
mm,
all know what happened in 2020. And at the time, though, I'll be honest with you, I didn't panic at all.
mm,
I was not even worried. You know why?
mm,
Because the Lord said, Melissa, don't worry about this.
mm,
You've already been through something like this, not in the same capacity, but
mm,
the rug was already pulled out from us from a business perspective. He said,
mm,
now what I need you to do is I need you to take what you learned. I need you to turn around and help and guide other people through this pandemic that they are scared. The rug
mm,
is being pulled out. They don't know how to sustain their business. Companies are closing doors every day. I
mm,
need you to reach out and serve them there. Do what
mm,
you do, but serve them there as a leader, as a true leader through chaos, through confusion, through the unknown. You've been
yeah.
there. I took you through there for a reason, but now I'm
Mm,
preparing you to lead here. And so
mm,
honestly, in COVID, I was like, game on, let's go. And
mm,
that's really what we did is we came alongside everybody we possibly could. We let them know not to be concerned. We had
mm,
already done virtual stuff since 2012.
mm,
So when COVID had happened and a lot of people were going virtual or through Zoom and they had
mm,
no idea how to do it, we helped them along the way and we helped them to succeed and grow and develop along the way. And so I can say that that was a great learning lesson. And then as we come out of COVID, however, whatever year people want to call that, we've had to regrow ourselves and we've brought in more people. And we're serving at a higher level and we take it day by day. That's one of our lessons. We've taken it. Yes, we have the vision. Yes,
mm,
we have the strategy, we have the
mm,
systems in place and the processes, we have the infrastructure we need, but we still learned a vital lesson. We got
Mm,
to keep our pulse on the marketplace, and any person who owns a business got to keep their pulse on the marketplace every day. And if they do that, they will foresee any possible challenges, not always, but sometimes coming down that channel. And then we can be proactive
mm,
versus reactive. We can diversify our revenue streams in different areas so that when one area is disrupted, it doesn't shut down our doors. Okay,
mm,
we diversified in 2016. We diversified all the
mm,
different industries we were working that we were helping and serving and working with, as I mentioned earlier on in today's session. And that was another thing we learned. We had to diversify. We had to diversify on not only our industries that we served, we had to diversify our offerings. We brought on a cult. We did more starting a few years back. We added on a culture division. So now we help organizations as well with culture inside their companies. We do assessments around effective communication, removing
mm,
toxic behavior, making sure we're removing the drama. And we
mm.
also added on a wellness division as well. And see, that came out of innovation,
Yeah.
creativity, innovation, and comebacks. And now
Yeah.
we serve our clients at a much higher level. That sales and sales leadership, there always will have, always has been, and always will be our flagship
Mm,
programs. Okay. But we added on culture and wellness through COVID.
mm,
And that has opened up so many doors that, in fact, this year we've done
mm,
an unbelievable amount of workshops
mm,
around those categories that we
mm.
never did before, but it's serving our clients at a higher level.
I love that. You're on a high with everything that you're building, and I'm excited now. Going into 2025, as you like cast the vision, like even like for early 2026, if you had to identify one of the biggest things now to make that impact on your business's growth, like to get to the next level so that you can be relevant, what would it be? What are you focused on solving there in that sense?
And it's interesting because, as you well know, and most people may who are maybe listening at some point to this may know, this year we had a whole nother disruption that most of us weren't expecting. Right, January of this year for us was off the charts from
Mm,
a sales revenue perspective. It was tremendously high, higher than it hadn't been this high since pre-COVID, to be honest with you. And so that was
yeah.
wonderful, but because of that, we were also ramping up, adding employees, projecting towards the vision and the strategy of the rest of the year into 2026. And
Mm,
honestly, in February, and some people experience this, not everyone, but a lot of people, in February and March, a lot of our big contracts that we had coming in the pipeline for closing February, March, they stalled. And I was like, wait, what? Now,
mm,
we didn't get worried because we thought we know what to do. We've got to backfill the pipeline. We've got to do more activity that we know works. We've got to reach more people. We've got to up our game. But
mm,
that was a whole nother rug that we weren't anticipating was when the tariffs were released and people were panicking or getting concerned. Our corporate clients, it's a trickle effect. So it's not that we had necessarily it impacts us directly, but it
mm,
impacts our clients. And people don't think about that. When it impacts your clients, then they have challenges. They have lost revenue. They can't always pay all their bills. They start having layoffs and then they start either freezing contracts or budgets, or they delay things. Like in our case, I said, it's not no, it's just
mm,
later. And I'm like, okay, baby, we got to recoup some of this, right? So that's what we've been doing. And so I always tell anyone who's on my team, don't get too shaken up by that because what I see for this year is that my whole team now also they need to build their resiliency even further. And if I
mm,
can help them with what I've learned and other team members have learned, some people are still with me from before, some people are new and other people moved on. I want to help our team to build that resilience. I want
mm,
them to keep a positive mindset. I
mm,
want them to know that anything's possible. And if we stay positive and we talk to our clients who are
mm,
scared and nervous about the unknown side of part of 2025, we can help them to change their mindset. And we
mm,
can help them to brainstorm the possibilities of how to innovate and how to be creative and how to have some comebacks even
mm.
after some significant losses. We've had some clients tell us, to be honest with you, they've lost over $1 million just in the first quarter of this year.
Wow.
That's serious. That's serious. They've had to lay people off. They've had to restructure stuff, but
Mm,
they have had to watch the market. They've had to take action with
mm,
what's coming down the pipeline, knowing that it's their fiduciary responsibility to make very somewhat quick but thought out decisions
mm,
to move things around where it needs to be so they can be solid so that
mm,
they're still navigating the uncharted waters, which is what we call it, navigating uncharted waters, and that way they can be still really strong so that when things start lifting they're thriving and not just surviving. And I always tell people this is a great time for sales teams to get really crystal clear on how important it is to build the funnel, like really build the funnel. Don't just
Mm,
do your regular pipeline management. Add it and add it. And even if things are delayed, the
mm,
faucet starts to run at some point. The faucet's not always turned off. And so when the faucet starts running again, not only will they have their normal sales and opportunities in business, they might have
mm,
10 times the amount, which could be
mm,
massively explosive for
mm,
summer or fall, or at this time, some people may say fall of this year. They may have
mm,
explosive growth because they're doing what's necessary today. It's like
mm,
that squirrel mentality. Gather the nuts, and then if it's a winter that's not as bad as expected, they may
mm,
still have options for food and they've gathered, and they're really great for the spring.
mm,
It's the same
mm,
thing for sales. We have to
mm.
make sure that we're on our game. We have to make sure that we're not getting overly concerned. If we make it a non-issue, it becomes a non-issue. If we make it an
Right.
issue, then it's an issue. And so I find that even looking at the vision of this year, we're really prepping our clients to do the right activities, the right
Mm,
timing to have explosive growth come this fall. And that trickles into the winter and going into next year that I
mm,
said, you've got to set yourself up for success now. It's
mm,
not a question. It's going to turn around. The faucet's going to start running, but are you going to be prepared to reap the benefits of that faucet? Or are you
mm,
going to just let it drip because you didn't do your due diligence? And that's
mm,
really, I feel like our job for leadership and guidance is
mm,
how do we help the people, our clients and our people, how do
mm,
we help them to make sure that they're not sitting back in their laurels? How do we make sure that they're
mm.
not coasting? How do we make sure they're not panicking and just giving
Yeah.
up? That is our
What
job.
are those ways? Because you said internally as well, you're figuring out how do you build that resilience within your own team, like that morale, that if the rug does get pulled over, it's totally okay. Let's recoup and let's figure this out. What are some of those like strategies that you're exploring to build that resilience, like both with your team internally, but also like externally with your clients? How are you navigating that?
Yeah, so like I'll start with our team. If our team or anyone on our team gets discouraged, or I even get temporarily discouraged with something that we were expecting, and they were like,
Yeah.
oh, number one, I've done a lot of work on my mindset. And
Mm,
so I will tell you that from a strategy perspective, I am someone who knows that we can create whatever we want to create. I also am someone that knows that regardless of what is fed to us, we make a decision on how we show up for the day. The
mm,
reality is, when you're in sales and sales leadership, you've
mm,
chosen a field to show
mm.
up.
Yeah.
And because we've chosen to show up, we
Mm,
don't have the luxury
mm,
of sitting at a desk and not doing anything or
mm,
going back to bed. We have chosen to show up. So what that means is that even if you wake up in the morning and you spill coffee on yourself, or you get an argument with a spouse or your children, or the dogs won't come in before you go to work,
mm,
and it leaves you in like a grumpy attitude, you
mm,
still have the option from a mindset to change that. And I
mm,
always tell our clients and even tell our salespeople, look, if you have frustrations that start your day, don't
mm.
get on the phone like that, right?
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
sit there, and even if you have to shake it up and say, today's going to be a great day. I
Mm,
have literally had to do that myself as a person. I've
mm,
had to say, today's going to be a great day because I had to
yeah.
convince myself, not recently, but years ago, I had to
Mm,
convince myself that I had to make it a great day because it
mm,
didn't feel good
mm,
in the morning. I was exhausted. Things weren't going my way. Things weren't coming in the speed that I wanted to. So I said, today's going to be a great day. And I know if I change my mindset, then I have positive energy going out,
mm.
that positive energy comes in. But
Mm.
the challenge is if you don't do that and you show up grumpy, pissed off, stressed out, scared, that
Right.
energy, you and I both know, goes through Zoom
100%.
calls, it goes through phone calls.
Yeah.
And I always tell our folks, and I also tell our clients,
Mm,
if you show up like that, then you
mm.
shouldn't be wondering why you're not getting any sales.
Yeah. A hundred
Right.
percent.
And so that's part of the resiliency, I think, is start here. So when I
Yeah.
see people on our team grumpy or stressed or free, I'll pull them into a little session. I'll say, listen, shake it off.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? Because I want to know. I'm people focused.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? What's going on for you?
Mm,
Let me share with me or talk to me about what's happening for you?
mm,
And so I want to address it. I want to acknowledge it. I want to appreciate it. I want them to feel seen. I want our team members to feel seen, heard, and understood. And then
mm,
I want to build into them and
mm.
say, you've got this. Don't pull you down.
Yeah.
You are better than that. You are on our team for a reason. You're here on purpose for a purpose.
Mm,
And that purpose needs to be lived out even through times like this. And so if we can be there for others, and what I have found is that whenever we're feeling negative things, and I'm sure you've seen this too. Number
Yeah.
one, we have to sit in our own gratitude. If we
Yeah.
take 5 minutes to write down all things we are grateful for, that we do appreciate, It
Mm.
changes our mind and our perspective. And we're sitting in gratitude versus the opposite. And then we can show up for others in a better way. And I also found that if we give in the times where we're feeling depleted, it
Mm.
takes the focus off of the concerns we have and
Yeah.
it blesses other people. Now, I'm a true believer that when we do that, it works in our behalf every single time. It may be immediate, it may be down the road, but what I can tell you works every single time. So I want to coach our people to remember that. I want to
Mm.
coach our clients to remember that. And I
Mm.
want them to know that anything is possible no matter the circumstances, no matter about the things that we cannot control. And that's the other thing I would mention here is when I'm doing coaching with a lot of our sales folks, I remind them when they get really angry or frustrated with certain things inside their organization that is out of their control, but it really impacts them. I always remind them, I say, hold on, what can you control?
Yeah.
Because what there's
Absolutely.
no point losing sleep over things you cannot control.
Yeah.
Okay, whether it's our company or in our company, I try to make it better. But if it's clients and it's in
Mm.
their company and they may not have control over something that's frustrating them, whether it's paperwork or someone on
Mm.
their team that had to deliver a product or service, drop
Mm.
the ball, or whether it's some leaders on their team who's not communicating effectively, I just say, look,
Mm.
what can you control? Because
Yeah.
the stuff you can't control, you got to let that go. But the
Mm.
stuff you can control, what can you control? You can
Yeah.
control how you show up. You can control how you do your job and you go above and beyond. You control how you treat your clients. Let's
Mm.
focus on what you can control. And
Yeah.
that will also change the energy and your success level. But people by nature, they
Mm.
want to commiserate. They want to
Yeah.
complain. They want to commiserate with other people who are also pissed off about the same thing and they want to sit around and commiserate. And so I tell people that will never lead you to success. It will
Yeah.
never. You can't control it. Don't sit in that. You
Mm.
can acknowledge it and then
Mm.
you got to move on. You got to
Yeah.
move on. And I'm not saying bury it and don't acknowledge it. I'm saying acknowledge it. And if
Mm.
there's something you could give positive feedback for someone appropriately that's professionally that you
Mm.
can say, hey, I care enough about you. I need to carefront you about something. And that's a term we use because people don't like confrontation. And I get
Mm.
that. It's a negative connotation. But if you care about someone, whether it's a colleague or it's a leader, if you
Yeah.
care enough about them, I tell people,
Mm.
carefront them and present it like that way and say, I have some concerns. I just want to share with you. Let's talk about it. Now,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
can coach others on how to treat you, and
Mm.
how to communicate with you and how to communicate with others, great. I'm all for it. But
Mm.
again, if it's something completely out of your control, you got to let it go. You got to move on and you can
Yeah.
control how you react.
Love that. Now, I want to get a bit hypothetical because I love your passion for really empowering not just like leaders within like the sales landscape, but also just individuals to get to where they want to be with their life. What's your thought process, Melissa? If I brought a genie in the room, you rub the lamp, and now you have all these unlimited resources, what would you implement immediately? And I ask every guest to
Oh my gosh,
accelerate
that's
the
interesting.
growth of MWI and to get to that next revenue target that you're looking for. What would that look like?
Wow, that is a great loaded question. I love it so much. I think about vision casting and dreaming. And honestly, part of the first thing I would do if we had unlimited resources is I would actually bring on more people to my organization. Number one, it would provide jobs for other people, which is fantastic. But number two, I want to serve our clients at a higher level. And I
Mm.
think that sometimes we're limited, even though we're automating, even
Mm.
though we're having a centralized system that's helping us do more with less. I
Mm.
still want more people on our team who have all their little specialty areas where we could serve our clients a much bigger and higher level because of all the things we bring to the table. And there's people that used to be on our team pre-COVID that we just didn't refill those positions, but we could. If we had unlimited resources, we would bring either some of those people back or we would rehire people into those positions because I
Mm.
do feel like when we come with a cohesive, positive energy as a team, as like a larger team or bigger group, I feel
Mm.
number one, will attract larger clients with
Mm.
larger resources who feel that they're supported on a much larger scale. I do see that that's very possible and does happen.
Mm.
And I know that we could divide and conquer more. Like
Yeah.
I know even right now, we do have an online sales university, of course, like most people, they have an online platform. They've got videos, they've got video learning, they've got reinforcement.
Yeah.
Everyone's got that at this point, right?
Mm.
But the thing is, I am wired in a way where I have a positive, infectious energy as a
Mm,
person, if that makes
mm,
sense. And I want other people in our team, and we have other people in our team who have that same positive, infectious energy. We have more of that where we can start spreading out and traveling and meeting people, more people, doing speaking engagements, trainings, workshops,
mm,
facilitations. When we can go out and be in the field more, and we
mm,
can go out there and teach people and help people and coach people and share that positive,
mm.
infectious energy of charisma, I
Yeah,
feel like just the sky is the limit. And so,
yeah,
yeah, we do have big goals. We do have vision. We do have revenue goals. We're shooting for that. We're trying to make sure we have higher level of the numbers we're projecting for revenue streams and 7 different revenue streams. And
mm,
I'm excited about that. I'm excited in the possibility of how many people we could serve, what kind of impact could we have on the world, not
mm.
just in our little corner, not just, and right now we already do impact the global scale. But could you imagine how much more impact we could have if we could
Yeah.
just travel everywhere we wanted to go and talk to people, learn more about them, learn about their cultures, learn about their challenges, and really start specializing in all these different categories where we can make such a big impact. And the biggest thing we can even offer them is that we see them, we hear them, and we seek to understand them in the process.
I love that. Now, one last question as we're in the lightning round.
Yeah.
Really for the listeners, entrepreneurs, founders tuning in and want to follow in your footsteps, what's the best piece of advice that you've received about scaling really a sales coaching business that has been a game changer for MWI, right? In your case, that you would give to them? What would you say on one
Mm.
last note?
Yeah. Here's the biggest thing I will tell entrepreneurs. Take the leap of faith before you feel you're ready. I
Mm,
think too often there's too many people who want all their ducks in a row and they want
yeah.
everything to be perfect before they take the leap of faith. And I say, first of all, you're never going to be 100% prepared. And for
Mm,
me as a mom, it's like having a baby. You
mm,
want a baby, you have
mm.
9 months of the baby inside of you, but when that baby comes, I hate to break it to you, you are not prepared to have that baby. Like you learn as you go. And so I
Mm,
tell people it's the same thing in business, it's the same thing in sales. Take that risk. Take the
mm.
leap of faith, figure it out as you go, land the client, and then
Yeah.
work on that custom tailored program for them. But land it. Don't wait till it's all perfect and then you have no one to sell it to. Land the client, figure
Mm,
out the solution. And I think that's one of the biggest things I tell people is imperfect action. I'd
mm.
rather see imperfect action than having people wait until they think it's perfect because half the time or most of the time it's never fully perfect. So
Yeah.
imperfect action, take the leap of faith, do things before you feel you're ready. And the thing is success follows. Success.
Absolutely. I love it. I have it written on my bulletin board in front of me, take the leap of faith. And the best thing is you have to put like that target and that goal there because the more you think about it, the more you see it, the more visual it is, it manifests into like really what you want. No, I love that. And that's what we preach every single day being in this industry. And I know there's some listeners tuning in, they might not be in the sales and leadership landscape, but that's exactly the mindset. Regardless of what you want to do in life, you have to take that leap of faith. You have to be able to be willing and believe in yourself and listen to that inner voice. So many of us go day by day not doing that.
Yeah.
Wow, what a wonderful way to end today's episode. I'm so excited for your journey as you go
Thank
into
you.
this year. We're going to follow along. So,
Yeah.
on
Thank you.
that note, thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. 30 years in sales and leadership, working with so many different high profile companies. You're really doing some phenomenal work here and you're
Mhm.
creating a lot of resilience, as you said, within your team and even with the external clients you work with. Hopefully, we can do a part two in 6 months and really follow your
Yeah.
journey and find out more on what you're building. To
That's
our
great. That sounds
listeners,
wonderful.
if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find some more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class sales systems. Until then, everyone, keep climbing, and we will see you all on the next one.